Hey everyone, this is Hunter from TEQ Customs. Today we are going to be walking through the install procedure for a set of our TEQ Customs retrofit headlights for first gen Sequoias and Tundras. This is obviously a first gen Sequoia, but the Tundra uses the exact same or very similar headlights, and all of the wiring is the exact same. So this will translate to your first gen Tundra as well. So you can just go ahead and follow the same exact procedures. So first, we're going to want to obviously pop the hood, and then we're going to remove the old headlights. And to do that, you need to first take out the corner light. You have a clip up here on top of the headlight, and then the corner light is going to pop out. And then behind the corner light, you will have a bolt down here. You have a bolt up here on top of the headlight, and then you have two bolts over here on this side of the headlight. And once you remove those, everything will just come out. You can disconnect the stock bulb and just leave the headlight plug there. And once you have that done, you can go ahead and move on to the next step. So real quick, we'll go over some helpful tools for this job. First, we have a impact, and you can use socket or wrenches as well. This has a low torque setting, so I would definitely recommend, if you're using a power tool, use the low torque setting just so you don't risk stripping anything out. We have 10 mil sockets and a Phillips head drill bit here. You can also just use a Phillips head screwdriver. We have a magnetic parts tray to just hold all of the bolts we take out. We've got a set of pliers. We've got a set of wire strippers, which you may or may not need depending on which connections you use for the headlight. We are using these little taps, and the link for these will be in the description of the video. We highly recommend these because these require no splicing. You just put one end of the wire in this side and clamp it down with the pliers, and then you just tap this side into the wire. You just clamp this over the wire you're tapping into. And that makes it super easy. It's a very secure connection, and these work a lot better than your traditional T-taps because these are for the specific size wires that will come with the headlights, and also the wires that are on the vehicle for the stock headlight wiring. So that'll make everything a whole lot easier for you. We highly recommend these, but you can use crimp sleeves or some other kind of tap if you did want to. We also have a hand ratchet and another electric ratchet from Milwaukee. We love this tool. We have a panel popper for removing some of the clips. We've got a measuring tape, which we're going to use to level the headlights once we're done. And then we have all of the wiring that is included with the headlights. So each set of headlights will have some kind of driver with a connection on the end of this. Some of the headlight drivers on different versions of the projectors are have the driver internal, so as long as you have this connection on the end, you're good. You have everything you need. We have our Switchback Halo drivers, which these headlights are Switchback headlights, so the halos are white and amber, and we'll explain how to set that up in a bit. If you have RGB halos, you will just have a black box that has connections coming out of it, and we'll explain how to install that as well a little bit later in the video. And then finally, we have the headlights themselves. Everything you need here is going to be pre-wired, and we'll go to this headlight harness that we will install. The headlight harness is completely plug and play, and we'll walk through the install for that as well. But everything you need comes with the headlights, with the exception of these taps if you want them. You can find them on Amazon for about $5 for as many as you could possibly need, so it's pretty cheap. And then lastly, the customer provided some corner lights. These fit with varying degrees of effort. Um, you can find these on eBay or Amazon. We're currently working on developing some ourselves that fit a little bit better, but we're going to make these fit because we're installing the lights. But this is typically not something that we would necessarily provide, simply because the fitment isn't perfect and we don't want to put our name on something that isn't necessarily perfect, but they can be made to work if with a little bit of effort if you do decide to go that route. So next we're going to move on to walking through how to install your halo wiring if you have any halos. If you don't have any halos, you can skip the next two sections of the videos. We're going to walk through the switchback halos first, and then we'll walk through the RGB installation. So to install your switchback halos, you're going to take your switchback driver, and you will have one of these per halo. So if you have just a rear halo, you'll have a pair, one for each side, and you'll have four if you have front and rear halos, so you'll have two per side. And these can just be connected into the same exact place, and they'll just plug into each individual halo. This set only has a rear halo, so we only have one of them per side. And there's a few ways that you can set these up. The first way is, and most common, is to actually utilize the switchback function. And that is connecting the white into your parking lights and connecting the amber into your turn signal. The other way that you can set it up is you can either just do white full time or amber full time. But to connect them in, you're going to go over to the bulbs that you have that typically go into your corner light, and you'll see three wires coming off of them. The middle wire is going to be a white wire with a black stripe, and that is going to be your ground. So you're going to want to connect the black wire from the halo driver into that white wire with the black stripe to ground the halo controller. Next, there will be a thinner, just green wire. It won't have any striping or anything on it. And that light is your parking light. So if you want to run white as a running light, you will connect the red wire into the thinner solid green wire. And if you wanted to run amber full time, you would connect the yellow wire into that thinner green solid wire. Finally, if you want to run the amber as a turn signal, you would connect the amber into the third wire, which is a thicker green wire that has a black stripe on it, and that's just the turn signal power wire. So you will connect the yellow wire from the halo driver into the thicker green wire with the black stripe. And after you do that, there is a little gap where this whole corner light wiring harness comes through the firewall, and we recommend just sticking the halo driver through there, so you have it kind of in this space, because the halo connection is going to come out of the back of the headlight and sit around here. So that'll just prevent any wires from getting pinched when you reinstall the headlights and the corner lights on the vehicle. So next we're going to walk through how to set up the RGB controller if you have RGB halos. If you have switchback halos or no halos at all, you can go ahead and skip this next part and move on to the harness install. So if you have RGB halos, you will have a controller that looks just like this. It's going to have this box with 4 wires coming out of it, and then it's a good idea to go ahead and scan this QR code on the box. That will take you to your phone's app store to download the Bluetooth app that you can use to control the color of the halos. So depending on where you put it, you can do it later, but it's typically easier just to scan it now and download it so you have it all ready for you. But the 4 wires coming out of this, you have a red and a black, which red is power, black is ground. And then you will have 2 yellow wires, and each of these are for a turn signal. So the RGB halos also have a turn signal function if you decide you want to use them for that. You will likely need to extend one of these wires to the other side of the vehicle And it does not matter which of these two yellow wires you connect to each side, because there are two leads coming off here. Each wire corresponds to one lead. But if you install the controller over here and just stretch the lead over to the opposite side and plug the halo in, and if you test the turn signals and it doesn't look like it's working, you can just swap the two leads, and then you'll know you're connected to the right turn signal wire. So it'll flash amber. It'll be pretty obvious when the turn signal's working. So it's easiest to just go ahead and connect them into whichever side, and then just flip the leads as needed, because these just disconnect from the halos super easy. So for install, you want to first take the black wire, which is the ground, and you're going to connect that into the corner light wiring over here. The centermost wire is a white wire with a black stripe, and that is going to be the ground for this bulb over here. So you take the black wire from the controller, we're going to connect that into the black wire on the corner light wiring harness here. Next, you want to take the red wire and connect that into the thinner green wire. It's just a solid green wire. It does not have any stripe on it. So you're going to connect the red wire from the controller into this solid green wire on the corner light wiring harness. And then finally, you will connect whichever one of these yellow wires you want to into the thicker green wire with a black stripe on it. And that is the turn signal power wire over here on the corner light. So pick a yellow wire, connect that into the green wire with the black stripe. And then if you do want to run the turn signals, you can just extend the other one over to the other side of the vehicle. The wiring is the exact same over here. The only slight difference is that on this side, you have a solid, you have a thick green wire with a yellow stripe. But you can just tell by the diameter of the wire. The thicker wire on both sides is going to be the turn signal power. So now that we have your RGB controller set up and ready to go, we're going to move on and install the H4 wiring harness, which is going to power our projectors. And then once that's done, we'll go ahead and that'll be all the wiring, and you can just go ahead and plug everything into your headlights. So now we'll move on to the H4 wiring harness. Right in there. And then also on the driver's side, we've got a couple things here. We've got a power wire with an inline fuse. This is going to hook directly to your positive battery terminal. And then we have the 9006 headlight connection, which will match up with the connection on your headlight drivers, which is just directly on the back of the headlight. And this has a ground wire attached to it with a ring terminal on it. So on the driver's side, a good place to ground it is just this little factory ground over here. That's where we typically recommend doing it. But if you want to ground it somewhere else, you could do this little fender bolt up here or anything like that. Anywhere that has a good metal contact. If you do the fender bolt, we recommend scraping just a little bit of paint off underneath the bolt. So it just ensures that you have a good ground. And then finally on this side, you have this little small black connection, and this is your high beam connection. There's a matching connection on the back of the headlight. You don't need to do anything with this right now. You can just tuck it in a safe spot for when you put the headlights on. And then the rest of the harness is run across the vehicle here. And then on this side, we have some very similar connections. We have the little black high beam connection, which again, you can just put out of the way in a safe spot. And then we have the low beam connection for this side that also has a little ground wire with a ring terminal on it. And this one we recommend doing to this fender bolt up here, right above where the headlight connects in. There isn't a factory ground anywhere over here like there is on the driver's side. So this is the best place to do it. We recommend, once again, just scraping a little bit of paint off underneath the bolt to make sure you have a good ground connection on there. But that is the last thing that you will need to do before you can go ahead and put your headlights on the vehicle. And once you install this, you'll have a matching connection for everything coming off the back of the headlight, and everything will just plug directly in. So now that you have your headlights on the vehicle, I would recommend, before bolting them in, go ahead and check all of the functions and just make sure everything is good to go. One common problem that we see a lot is the low beam connector can actually plug in both orientations. So you want to make sure you have the blue or red wire on the low beam coming off the back of the headlight plugged into the red and black wires, just matching up everything correctly. So you want to make sure you have red to red or blue to red, and then brown to black or black to black. And that's going to make sure that you have the power and ground correctly. If you do test your headlights and the low beam doesn't come on, that's the most common problem area, and we recommend just flipping the driver connection from the back of the headlight 180 degrees. That just reverses the polarity there, and make sure that the low beam is going to be working as it should. But you can go ahead and test your parking lights, your turn signals, the high beams. Go ahead and test everything real quick and make sure everything works as it should before you bolt the headlights in, because it can be a little tough to get to the wiring with the headlights in there, and especially once you have the corner lights in there. So we recommend just testing real quick, and then if everything's good, you can go ahead and bolt the headlights back up to the vehicle. So now that you have your headlights bolted back onto the vehicle and the corner light reinstalled, the last thing that you'll want to do is adjust the height of the beam pattern of your headlights. So the best way to do this is, first you're going to measure from the ground to the center of the projector. So right about here. On this vehicle, it is about 39 inches. So what we're going to do is we're going to back this up to a wall or somewhere that you can see the beam pattern pretty evenly and on flat ground. And you're going to, from about 20 feet away, you're going to measure that and then go to the wall and measure how high the beam is. You will want the beam about 2 to 3 inches lower than on the wall than the center of the headlight, and that's going to prevent you from blinding oncoming traffic. And this can be easily fine-tuned later if you want it a little bit higher or lower. It typically depends on how high of a lifted vehicle that you have, or if you don't have any lift. So to adjust the headlights, you will just need a Phillips head screwdriver, and right on this attachment point on the top of the headlight here, there is a little slot in a hole where you can slide a screwdriver down into. And sliding the screwdriver down in there, you can turn it and it will turn the adjustment nut. And this is going to, turning right is going to raise that beam on the headlight up, and turning left is going to lower the beam. So if you need to raise it, just put the screwdriver in there, turn it right a little bit, and it will be a little bit slow going, but just be patient and you can dial it in exactly where you need to. And then in the future, if you need to adjust it at all, you can just go ahead and do the same method and adjust the height of the beam from this adjustment point right there. You will not really need to adjust the left-right adjuster on the headlight, so that adjuster can be completely ignored. All of these headlights, just by design, are aimed straight down the road, so you don't really need to mess with that one, just the height. Once you're done with that, you can go ahead and close up the vehicle, secure any wiring you need to. We like to just put some zip ties along this core support here to keep the wire off of the radiator and out of the way. We'd recommend doing that as well, even though it has heat shrink on it. The radiator does get pretty hot, so you don't want to accidentally melt anything. Finally, go on social media and share pictures of the finished product with us. We are at TEQ Customs on Instagram and Facebook. Feel free to also email us any pictures. Our email address is teqcustoms@gmail.com, and we will be happy to feature you on our social media. Finally, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or anything with the headlights, all feedback is always appreciated. You're more than welcome to give us a call at 919-903-4555 or email us at, once again, teqcustoms@gmail.com. We look forward to seeing the finished product of your headlights, and we hope you really enjoy them. Thank you.